So let's have a little look at side connectors. As I said, I'm going to use one that's got a slightly different clip system to most of the ones I've got. So this is the style that most of the ones I have are. So you have the part that fits over the side of your bag or your purse, and you have a small circle on the side to attach a swivel clip to. This one is of a very similar design. It's got a movable kind of ring on the top that allows you to fit your swivel clip, and again a channel in the middle. And some of these have bigger channels than others. I think these are all about 4mm, but I have seen cheaper ones that have got much thinner channels to put things into, which can be a bit difficult to use, it has to be said, but they're all very similar functionality. This one's gold, this one's silver. This one I'm going to use is actually slightly bigger. Not only is it slightly taller, but it's also it's no wider. It's still a 4mm gap, but rather than having the little hole, it's got effectively like a swivel clip, so you can actually use a D-ring to clip into it, which is what I was. If I knew what I did with my wrist strap, I'd be able to show you. I don't know where I put it. Yes, I do. Here we are. So you just attach your wrist strap using the D-ring as opposed to a swivel clip. That said, you could put a swivel clip on there. It wouldn't make a lot of difference. I just don't see the point in using one if you've got these. So, what the problems with these? The problems with these are that they are only 4mm across here. If you're making your bag from faux leather, that can be a challenge. However, there is a trick, and I wish I'd shown you on the faux leather one, but the faux leather one I put the strap connector on. What I do, if I've got a bag that's quite thick, and this one actually is, if I try and show you, if I try and put it on this side, it is quite difficult to slide it on because it is quite chunky at the sides. So what I do is I lay my hardware onto the side of I lay it on the side, difficult to show you, lay it onto the side of my bag and make a small mark just inside of where, of this measurement. So you could actually just measure that and then make a mark if that's, let me see how long that is. It's 1.25 inches. So if you were to make two marks that were an inch apart, they would be within this area. So make two marks on your bag and then stitch. And you can see I've done that in dark brown stitching just to show you. And I've literally gone backwards and forwards. If you've got a zigzag machine, then zigzag it. Don't do a satin stitch though, because that adds bulk, but just do a relatively close zigzag between those two marks that you've made. So I've got a mark here and a mark here. What that does, I don't actually know if you can see it from the side particularly, but it reduces the bulk in that side. So you should, and I can thread that on quite easily. And because I measured where I wanted to do that, where I did the stitching, none of that stitching is actually showing because the hardware covers it. So I've slotted my hardware on, and most of these, and I've never seen one that doesn't fit with screws, have little tiny screws that you then pop into the holes on the back of the hardware. You don't need to make holes in your bag, you just need to make, did I have a screwdriver here? I'm fairly sure I got a screwdriver out, but what did I do with it? There we are. You don't need to make holes in your bag because these are self-tapping, so they'll tap into the fabric, which is what holds them in place. So just screw them in. They are quite tight because they are cutting through the fabric as well, and that's what stops them from falling off. You'll have usually 2 screws. I have got some that have got 3 screws, but they're much longer than these, and I don't know where they are. And you can put your connector wherever you feel most comfortable with it. Depends really on the size of the connector, because they are all slightly different sizes. And I just like to have mine just slightly below where that zipper overlay is. And then there you go, you've got your wrist strap attached with a side connector. Now, one of my lovely testers, Carol, put one on either side and a chain strap across the top, so she could use it as a hip bag, which works quite well. She also made a wrist strap, so she'd got options, so she could use it with or without the wrist strap. So you can either use it like that, or you've got the wrist strap, so you can kind of do it like that, and you've got security. It's very much your call, but there we go. That's our wrist strap connected using a strap connector. Now, if you wanted to go down the other route that I did, where I used a grommet through, you would need either a press that will fit grommets, or the tools that you use with a hammer to fit a grommet. And basically, I just, once I'd made the bag, cut a hole as close as I could to my top stitching around the outside, just below the zipper overlay, and I used those press cutters, so the ones that you put on there like leather cutters, and you whack the top, and it cuts a hole that goes straight the way through, and then fit your grommet through, and then use a bigger, you will need a bigger swivel clip to be able to get through that hole that you've created, because you probably need to make a 1-inch strap with that. But that was only because I'd completely forgotten what I was doing, lost the plot, so I just thought I'll do that because it just because I can. So there we go. That just about concludes our Libertas sew along. So I have my 2 bags that I've made whilst I was sewing with you, plus the ones that I've got already that I made initially to develop the ideas. I just love them. I think they're really, really cool. They've got so many uses, and even though this one was somewhat of a nightmare to do, it's all fixed and it looks great, so I'm really chuffed with it. The faux leather, I think Linda asked about the faux leather, came from Dunelm Mill in the UK. Very, very cheap. I think it was very, very cheap. I don't pay a lot for faux leather ever. I only bought half a metre because I wasn't sure. I will say it's nice to, it feels nice, but it's not actually very easy to sew. It's not very thick, but it's quite sticky. So if you're planning on going to Dunelm anytime soon and getting some, you have been warned. But it is pretty cool because it's got this kind of honeycomb kind of hexagon look to it. So there we go, all done.